Welcome, everybody, to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grueling True Sports Network. Remember, if you want to bet on some college basketball, especially Indiana, Nebraska, tomorrow night at 9 at Nebraska, go to BetMGM for the best sportsbook for betting on Indiana basketball. You can click on the link in the description down below if you're watching on YouTube. Well, let's go ahead and let's get the Big Ten season started. Every game's a Big Ten game from now on. No more Kennesaw States. But I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome in my co-host. First up, we got Brian Mohr from the Got Woodson Facebook page. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good. Happy New Year to all you guys.
And, of course, 1981 national champion, 1979 NIT champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Two-time Big Ten champion.
Yeah, whatever. How you doing, Steve?
Well, we're going to talk about flags or banners hanging. Let's talk about them all.
Well, the only one that matters is 1981 national championship. But Indiana looking for the sixth ring. Wrapped up a non-conference play with a 100-87 win against Kennesaw State on Friday night at Assembly Hall. And once again, Steve, Indiana dominated the paint. After a hot start from the perimeter, Indiana quickly got his bread and butter offensively going against Kennesaw State, dominating the paint. The Hoosiers buried 4 3-pointers before the first media timeout. But the interior dominance here was the difference in the outcomes. Indiana outscored Kennesaw State 52-26 in the paint on Friday night. Steve, what were your big takeaways from this game?
Well, I thought that Indiana played closer to their potential than, that's the only way I can really measure this game, because I don't really see Kennesaw State as it's a good warm-up game for Indiana in the sense that Indiana can work on things they're going to need to use in the Big Ten. What I like, too, is they out-rebounded, 43-28, I think it was, somewhere around in there. I don't have my glasses on right now. Little vanity going on. But shooting 61% from the 2-point range and 57
reverse that
61% from the field goal, 46% from 3-point. Good shooting night for them, I thought. What concerned me, 18 turnovers. I don't know if that's a product of them just, Kennesaw State not being good enough and you got a little sloppy. I don't know, but I liked what I saw. It's a good emotional game to go into it and win big, pop 100. It's kind of just one of those things that in college basketball you deal with. You like to try and it's not meaningful at all, but I think this game provided Indiana what they needed heading out to Lincoln tomorrow night. They're there now, as a matter of fact, I'm sure, or they're flying there right now.
All right. Well, Khalil Ware was sidelined again, sick. Malik Renew, I think, was the big story. He had a career night, Brian. He poured in a career high 34 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, hit a block shot in 37 minutes. And, he's taken over as the team's leading scorer, even when Ware's there as of late. Malik Renew has played really well. And the question is this something that we're going to see into Nebraska and the games after that, or is this kind of an aberration, Brian?
I think we're going to see. I think this is the breakout game for Malik, but I think it's going to be a different situation in Nebraska when you got Ware back in the lineup. It's actually going to be an interesting night because you got X coming back or potentially coming back. That's what I'm hearing on the street, is that chances are he's going to be back for this game. But
word is he practiced all week with the team.
Yeah. So
I want to know what street you heard IU talk on down in Florida.
There's a lot of Hoosier fans in Florida. I've been to Disney World multiple times. I've signed as many autographs in Orlando as I did in Bloomington.
We have a restaurant bar on Fort Myers Beach called Hoosiers in Paradise. So
there you go.
Indiana's very strong down here. But no, it was definitely a great night for Renew. I think hopefully we're going to see him continue that. To the tune of 34 points, obviously not. But I think what we saw with him is he started out like Mbako shooting from the outside with a 3, opened up the inside, and then he just drove it in, and Kennesaw State did not have an answer for him in the paint. I mean, he was scoring pretty much at will in the paint. I don't know if we'll see that against Nebraska, but I think it's a turning point for him. I could see him going out the rest of the season being the top scorer. I really could.
All right, and another guy that unexpectedly played well was Anthony Leal, who provided a second half spark. Leal was actually, Indiana was plus 17 with the Bloomington South product on the floor during the game. And his playing time's been sporadic this year. But Leal entered the game with Indiana trailing by 4 points with 13 minutes left. And he immediately provided a spark by helping keep Terrell Burden, who had been getting past Gabe Cupps all half, out of the lane. So I think there's a decent shot. Maybe you can give more minutes to Anthony Leal now, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question from an emotional standpoint, he brought this team back up. I mean, our emotional leaders seem to be Leal and Walker, and both are doing very well right now. I mean, Walker's impressing me the last several games, and we hope that will continue. But I think we're going to see. I think even Woody said we're going to probably. Leal's earned the right for more minutes, and let's hope that equates to he helps out what's really a depleted backcourt and provides some energy.
All right, we've got a question from Robert Stewart, also from Florida, a Hoosier in Florida. Why was McKenzie pulled? Defense? He came out on fire, Brian.
Defense. Now, it's here. I mean, I heard that in the game he had an ice pack on his leg. I've not heard anything else about an injury, but my gut tells me, in this game, as fast paced as Kennesaw State plays, I think in the second half, his defense wasn't there. I mean, he started off great, played a really strong first half, but I think he kind of faltered in the second half, and Woody pulled him.
Yeah, and when you talk about things that were concerning, I know you talked about the 18 turnovers, Steve, but another thing that has to be concerning, Riz, Kennesaw State hit 17 of its 35 three-point attempts. They outscored Indiana by 30 points from the perimeter. That's something that has to stop at some point because it seems like no matter who Indiana plays, if they played a fifth-grade team from Scottsburg, they would give up 10 3-points.
Yeah, it's been a bane for this basketball program for as many years as I can count now, the perimeter defense. I don't understand it. We got the quickness up there and the size to do it. I don't know why we're so hell-bent on just continuing to pack things in and let teams shoot over us. If you do that in the Big Ten, you're going to get drilled a lot of games because there's a lot of decent three-point shooting teams in the Big Ten. And we're going to lose games. We probably outplayed teams, but there's some teams going to come and outshoot us from the perimeter. It's got to be addressed. I mean, we were beating a dead horse, it seems like, Mike, we've talked about this every time. And Brian, you apparently to be in bed and sleep with Woody. Why don't you
I don't think his wife would be too happy with that.
But I don't think
have
she'd
a
mind.
conversation with Mike and tell him, hey, perimeter defense there. Risley says, get your ass out on the perimeter.
Well,
So
I think
Robert asked, do we help too much?
No,
I think that's a
don't think
byproduct
we
of
help
it.
enough. I think we try. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You don't think the switching is I don't think there's communication still on the switching.
I think my observation in watching it play is these guys don't know how to play the defense that we played. And, we played man-to-man, but it was a zone man-to-man.
Right.
One step man side, one step ball side, based on above the free throw line, below. I mean, I could spend the next 30 minutes explaining the defensive system we had at IU. It's not earth-shattering, but it was effective. It worked like a zone, but you had a man responsibility. And you went with your man, and you decided whether you're going to be one step on the ball side or one step on the man side based on above or below the free throw line, as I've repeated myself and said. They don't do that. They stick to their men too much and try and fight through the screens or switch off and stay too tight to their own man. And
Or they
don't
run under the screen, or they run over the screen at times when they should do the opposite.
exactly. Yeah,
Right.
they haven't. I mean, yeah, we would switch that so quickly, and we would talk, and I don't hear a lot of communication from this basketball team on the court. And I mean, just things to improve. That's all. They're doing fine. They're right about where I think they're capable of being right now.
All right. And we start off tomorrow night in Lincoln, Nebraska at 9:00. This is a lot different Nebraska team than was the 11th seed in the Big Ten tournament last year. I know the schedule has not been rough, but they do have a win over Michigan State. They've got a couple good wins here. I know the better teams they've played, like Creighton, blew them out, but I think Creighton's also a top 10 team, so I won't read a whole lot into that. But when we look at Nebraska, we got to kind of look at what we got to expect. And I think what you got to expect here, this is the 5th year Fred Hoiberg has been with the Nebraska program. And I finally think he has a roster to make the NCAA tournament. They're very well balanced offensively, Brian. They've got 4 players averaging between 12.7 and 13.7 points per game. They like to play through the high post, and they take a lot of three-point shots, with 44.9% of his field goal attempts coming from distance. That could be a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a problem. Plus, they play a deep bench too. I mean, you've got, I think, at least 10 players that are averaging 12 minutes or more a game. So they shoot very well from the three. As Steve was talking about the defense, if our perimeter is like it is against Kennesaw State, we're in for a long night. I mean, I think we can do it on the interior, but I think that 3-point lane is going to be, it's going to be a problem against Nebraska. They shoot very, very well from the three.
Yeah, and you've got Bryce Williams, who's a transfer for UNC Charlotte, who leads Nebraska in scoring, shoots close to 35% on threes, 88% from the free throw line. He's a 6'7" wing. I think he's going to be a matchup issue, especially if McKenzie's not going to be playing defense. And, you got Juwan Gary, who is second on the team, averaging 13.3 points a game. Now, you've got the masked kid, a Bradley transfer, is Nebraska's 3rd leading scorer, but he missed the last 2 games after undergoing minor knee surgery. Not sure if he's going to play yet or not. And if he doesn't play, look for the 6'8" Josiah Alik to step in as the starter at the 5. He's a transfer from New Mexico who also played at University of Missouri at Kansas City. So when you look at this, IU, I think, definitely has the advantage in the front court, but the advantage in the back court, I don't know. You've got the Tominga. I don't know how to say his name, and I'm not going to act like I can. But Tominiaga, or whatever the hell his name is. You got Jamarcus Lawrence, starting point guard. He gets help off the bench from Sam Hoiberg, who's a solid player. I mean, this is a game, when I look at it, Steve, I think we have the advantage inside. I think we might have the advantage at guard also. But the place we don't have the advantage is what we have issues with. It is like I just talked to Brian about. What we have issues with is what they do.
Yeah. Guard play, I just start off with that question or that discussion. Xavier coming back is going to, hopefully be an added benefit to us. I don't know how rusty he is, how much, I don't know. And Cups, Cups again just took 3 shots in the game, 1 for 3. Does anybody have an explanation for that? Why he's not shooting the ball?
I don't think he's told to. Like I said, I gave you my explanation a couple of weeks ago. I don't think it's really being pushed. I think he's there to just kind of facilitate the offense more than anything else.
Well, hell, I was told if I ever took a shot, I'd be benched, and I took 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shots a game.
No, you didn't.
And you got benched.
Yeah. That's why he took 10 shots in his 4 minutes average playing in each game.
I average. Don't be that way, Mike. Good.
What way? Well, you didn't average 10 shots a game, Risley.
I don't know. I don't know what's a good. Pull up my stats.
I don't want to.
Is this like the old fish story? It gets bigger as you go along?
Yeah.
No. I scored 516 points. I had to take some.
That's 100 points a year. That's 3 points a game.
Yeah.
So if you took 10 shots a game, he should have pulled you at 5 shots.
I couldn't shoot. That's why.
It wasn't that you couldn't shoot. It was the fact you were told not to shoot. So you had no confidence.
I think Cups has got to be willing. I'm afraid if we don't get Cups shooting the ball now, we may lose him. I don't mean lose him in the portal. I mean just lose his confidence and sit back. And I mean, he needs to be shooting the ball right now. He's a damn good shooter. He was a 3-point genius in high school, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know about a genius.
He shot well over 40%, right?
Yeah. Robert Stewart says we need to push offensively and get them in foul trouble. I don't think we need to push offensively because they want to push offensively. I mean, they're a team that plays at a very fast rate. Brian Wetters, his comment is Nebraska exposes our present set of weaknesses. I'm not confident even our front court has been silent recently. I mean, yeah. I mean,
we don't know the nature of Ware's illness, but I mean, the last couple of games before he was out, his touch was off. He did not seem to have the energy he had in previous games. So I'm hopeful if we have a healthy and strong Ware, I don't agree with that statement. But
Brian hits the nail on the head a little bit when he said in the sense that we don't know really where we stand right now because we've played some putz teams and the good teams we've played have drilled us.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't played a good team and even been really in the game.
Well, Kansas, they were in the game.
Kansas, we were in the game.
Yeah. Okay. 1 out of 3 or 4.
Yeah, 1 out of 3.
1 out of 3. And then the other ones, okay, we beat Kennesaw State 100 to whatever. But really, what's that all about? I mean, they're going to find out this weekend because they play at Nebraska and they come home and play Ohio State.
And Ohio State's a good team, and they got some experience.
Of which I will not be watching because my beloved Colts will be beating up on the Houston Texans at the same time. So you guys will handle that show. I'm watching my beloved Colts.
We handle all the shows, but all right. All right, so if we look at the KenPom projection, the KenPom projection is Nebraska by 7 with a 28% chance of a Hoosier victory. The Huskers are 9-1 at Pinnacle Bank Arena with their only loss being to Creighton. We are not Creighton, so I throw that out. It is not a shot. It's just Creighton really freaking good, and we're not there yet. Hopefully, we'll get there. But I think this: if Mast is able to go, even if he is able to go, Indiana should have the advantage downstairs. I don't think there's anybody here that can go from Nebraska that can guard Malik. And, they have 2 excellent wings in Gary and Williams. They got plenty of 3-point shooters. If the Hoosiers don't guard the 3-point line better in this game's going to be a loss, and we can't afford that right now. I mean, how much does coaching preparation factor into this game? I mean, I've seen this team come out flatter than pancake lately. It factors in every game.
Coaches get these guys motivated and try and explain to them that they got to come out lighting it on fire to get going and give themselves a little cushion.
Well, that's what they did against Kennesaw State, though. I mean, they came out and
they were losing with 13 minutes
Kennesaw
left.
State, I can't really judge a lot off Kennesaw State except what Indiana did for themselves.
Yeah. And they struggled against Kennesaw State. That was a game where at 12:59 left in the game, they weren't losing, Brian.
4 points up in the first half is all.
Yeah. And they were losing with 13 minutes left. That is a concern. And I know that we did win the game, but it's still a concern. And I don't think Kennesaw State sucks. I think Kennesaw State actually plays in a way that was good for us to be tested against because they do. But, I mean, still, they took advantage of us. If they're going to hit that many threes, what the hell's Nebraska going to do in playing at Nebraska? I mean, that's going to be a hostile environment because, I mean, Nebraska is a team that right now looks like an NCAA tournament team.
Mike, what scares you more than anything is not how many threes, it's the percentage. They hit 46% of their 3-point shots.
And they shot 35. So it's percentage 35. And the number shot. So it is an issue.
It's going to be hard to overcome that. I don't care how good you're paying.
But most of that wasn't in the first half. I mean, the second half, I think when Leo came in, he actually cut down on the 3-point shooting in the second half.
There was a point in time when Indiana was up over 20, and they only ended up winning by 13.
Right.
So they were – this team I'd like to see a lot more intensity out of this team for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
I understand there's always a 5-minute lull in every game for whatever reason. Not always, but more times than not. But boy, this team's like having a 5-minute spurt and then
what we've seen in most of these
lull.
games against inferior teams, I think, was about a 5 to 10 minute spurt where Indiana would completely dominate the game, and then they would win by 5 to 12 points.
Yeah,
and that don't get it. And I think
the good thing, guys, is Indiana goes into this game 2-0 in the Big Ten right now. We've already got 2 Big Ten wins. That's something I'd be harping on.
Well, and the good thing there is this. When you look at that, one of those wins came against Maryland, who was terrible at the time. And Maryland all of a sudden looks like a pretty good team.
Well, and one was at Chrysler, whatever you call it.
No, it was Michigan. It doesn't count. Kennesaw State.
No, I'll tell you,
Kennesaw State. McNeese State just beat Michigan at Chrysler.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But
okay.
when Indiana or somebody like that plays at Chrysler, it's a tough game no matter what.
Juwan Howard coaches Michigan, Steve.
He didn't coach that game.
Yeah,
he didn't coach that game.
So
they had a real coach in that game.
They still have this mentality.
Getting that win out of the way at Chrysler is a good thing.
And I'm sorry, Brian, a real coach would not be an assistant to Juwan Howard. Unless he was just waiting to be the next guy up. Brian,
I'm excited. I'm excited for tomorrow night. I'm excited to look and watch these guys play, see how they respond into the Big Ten now. And the message to these kids ought to be, it's gut check time from here on out. Every game counts now.
I think. Who do you think X is the X factor?
Pardon? I don't know because
X is the X factor.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't think you can be an X factor when you haven't played in well over a month.
I don't have any expectations, Xavier.
I don't think
he's going to later on in the season. How about that?
I don't think he's going to start, but what his presence on the court could help. Could very easily help.
I think you bring him in and give him spurts and let him feel the game out.
But I guess there's a better chance it's going to hurt tomorrow, but in the long run, it'll help. How about that?
No, exactly right, Mike. That's exactly right. We're probably going to pay a little price for bringing him back tomorrow, but as Mike said, in 6-7 games, I think if he plays within himself, he's capable of doing. I mean, he could be a real factor for this basketball team.
All right, so let's do this. Let's look, since we're really getting into the meat of it. When we look at the Big Ten right now, all right, you obviously have Purdue. What teams are most likely to challenge Purdue for a Big Ten championship? I mean, no homerism, just look at the teams. Is there anybody here, Steve?
You got to say, you got to put Michigan State in the lump. I know they're not playing well right now, but
they're playing great right now. They beat Baylor by 30.
As long as you got Tom Izzo coaching in the Big Ten, you have a potential Big Ten winner. Now, Purdue is the team to beat, bar none. We understand that. But Michigan State definitely is going to be there. I'm interested to see Ohio State play.
Ohio State got another good win over West Virginia, but they got upset by Penn State, which would be concerning. But it's also league play; you're going to lose a game or two you shouldn't. So
that's.
But I mean, to me, it was a three-horse race between Purdue, Illinois, and Michigan State. I think one of those horses is probably not now gone, with Terrence Shannon Jr. probably being gone for a while, if not the rest of the season.
Yeah, Roberts is Northwestern. How good is Northwestern? I haven't seen much on them.
Northwestern they've struggled. I mean, they lost to Chicago State, and really they struggled against Jackson State. And struggling against Jackson State worries me. But
they also beat Purdue.
I know, but I'm still not sold on them. They are a team with great guards, but the low post isn't great. I think they're going to be a team that probably ends up like 12-8 in the Big Ten. I don't think there's any way they challenge for a Big Ten championship, because I can't see Purdue losing more than probably 4 games total, and I think that's probably pushing it. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, you've got wild cards. I think Nebraska's a wild card. I think Wisconsin's a wild card. Wisconsin's got some good wins. They've played some good teams so far. Nebraska will be dangerous. I think they'll get in the tournament. I think with Indiana, we don't really know what we're going to get. I mean, there's no way to know from what we've seen. I mean, because we haven't beaten anybody of any real significance yet.
Well, Mike, I don't think Indiana's in that upper echelon with Michigan State, Illinois, and Purdue. I don't think they belong there.
And Wisconsin. I think those are the 4 teams. I think the teams that are like between 5 and 10, you may get a dark horse run out of that turns out to be better than what we think.
Yeah.
And then I think you got the bottom 5, which are just crap. And I mean, you got a team like Minnesota who's won a lot of games, but they haven't really played anybody. And Robert brings up Purdue's guards, and Purdue's guards, it seems like one of them's always, playing well, whether it's Lawyer or the other kid right now. So Purdue's a scary situation.
I think we're seeing. I want to see how we finish. I mean, obviously, we have improved from the beginning of the season. I mean, we're shooting.
Have we?
Yes, I think so.
We're talking about the same thing we always talk about. They can't defend the threes. They can't shoot free throws, and defensively,
all right, what were we averaging in the beginning of the season? 3 or 4 threes a game. We shot 7 against.
I'm not complaining. I don't care how many they shoot. You can't give up 17 for 35 against Kennesaw State from 3 and claim to be a better team. I mean, what are they making now? 6 or 7?
Yeah. Okay. We were talking 9 was the magic number, wasn't it?
I don't remember talking about any magic number. I would like to see them shoot 15 and make 7. I would be happy.
Oh, that's what they did against Kennesaw State.
But it's Kennesaw State.
It does. Every team. Why do teams lose against lesser teams? It happens.
It doesn't happen very often. Not for better teams. I mean, Northwestern lost to Chicago State. That can happen.
That's a lesser team.
Yeah, but they also beat the hell out of the other 8 lesser teams they played, and they dominated them in almost every game. And the thing is this, we have not dominated anybody yet.
You know what I want to see in terms of the 3-point shot is I want to see it used as a weapon, not just as a shot.
Right.
There's a time and a place to take a 3 and to hit a 3. The 3-point shot's the greatest momentum squelcher there is in the game. Other than you come up and somebody makes a big dunk, you come down and just drill a 3 on them. It's like I'm up 1 out of the hole.
Shuts the crowd up.
Shuts the crowd up right away. So.
And I'll tell you this, to me, I don't see a difference in this team because I don't see a team that plays hard.
I agree with Mike.
I can't argue that. I think they have not.
Well, then how are we improving? Because the only thing that matters in the end is how hard this team will play. Because they're not talented enough to just mail it in. They've got to come out and they've got to play like their hair's on fire all the time to be able to beat teams that are good teams. So to me, we could say, I guess Kennesaw State, they made 7 threes. It's Kennesaw State. You should be able to make as many as you want. And the other fact is this with Northwestern's issue right now is they don't play hard all the time. And that's why they got upset by Chicago State. And it's why they almost got upset against Jackson State. But when you don't play hard all the time, see, when I watch Michigan State, when I watch Wisconsin, when I watch, Purdue, they play hard all the time. And really, when you look at it, those are probably the 3 best coach teams in the Big Ten. Because that's what the best coaches teams do. And I agree, Walker does play hard all the time. That was Robert's comment. Sparks.
Mike, it's almost as if Indiana's just playing basketball. They're not playing.
Yes.
They're not playing to win, and they're not playing not to lose. They're just going out and playing street ball, pickup ball,
and having
fun. Yeah, and having fun. And when they need to take a break or not run down on the fast break because there's 3 guys in front of them, I kind of get that mentality. And it's almost like an NBA mentality.
All right, Brian says Ware and McKenzie need another year like Trace did. See, I don't buy that because there's a difference. Trace always played hard. Well, Ware and McKenzie don't. I mean, Ware and McKenzie are not NBA basketball players.
that argument just gets old because it doesn't matter what we think; it matters what the NBA thinks. And if they think Ware can come in and make an impact in the NBA, they're going to take him.
And they're going to be wrong, so it doesn't matter.
Well, but that's what they do.
But they won't. I don't think there's a chance in hell right now anybody's going to draft, Ware in the first round of the NBA draft because he played good against Army.
Okay, could you put up betting odds? Because I'll bet you on that one.
Okay. Whatever you want to bet, because if you want my honest opinion, I mean, I don't know that Ware's still starting by the time we get to the end of this year.
Well, I would agree. I'd like to see him get one more year, but I think he's projected as a first rounder now.
I don't want to see him get another year. I've seen enough. He's inconsistent. And you know what? There's been a lot of guys that were really horrible that got drafted in the first round of the NBA draft.
Do we want to talk about a guy from Southern Indiana? Is that what you're referring to?
No, because Romeo wasn't like he was a high pick. Wasn't he like late first, early second?
I thought he was low first.
Is he still in the NBA?
I have no clue. I don't watch the NBA because the NBA sucks and it's boring and nobody.
I think he's in the G League, but
hey, wait, Ware will be all right then. Nobody plays hard in the NBA anyways. That's why nobody watches. And let's face it, why worry about guys you're only going to have for a year? Because when you take guys like Ware and McKenzie, this is what you get. So unless you change the way you recruit the team and stop going after 4 and 5 stars and actually try to recruit a team that will stay together for 4 years so you can play cohesive defense and you can shoot the three, this is what you're going to get.
Bill Self doesn't do that.
What's that got to do? Yeah, but Bill Self is an absolutely scumbag, great coach, though. Bill Self's going to win no matter how he does it. I mean, he's proven that. He's won year after year after year. And yes, he's a cheating shit, but still.
Not anymore.
Now he's not cheating because everybody does it the same, and he's still winning. Now, see, the Indiana Hoosiers need to watch the Indiana Pacers and learn offensively. The only problem is by watching that, to watch the Pacers play defense too, Brian. And once you watch the Pacers play defense, then it doesn't really matter because in the end, you're going to get outscored. And the Pacers are fun to watch, but they play absolutely no defense. And I'm serious, Brian. Why is Northwestern good the last couple of years? Because they've had good guards. None of those guys are going to the NBA, and they'll stay for 4 years. Why is Purdue good?
Well, I agree.
Has Purdue recruited a 4 or 5 star?
I really believe we would be talking a different tune if Newton was playing and X wasn't hurt.
This is the thing, Brian.
Well, it is what it is.
They've got good enough players, and we don't know what Newton's never played a college basketball game.
No, but what we saw of him in high school, I think he would have been.
Yeah. We saw DeMazie Anderson in high school too, who looked awesome and shot 60% from 3. I'm just saying, you got to play with who you got, and that's what a good coach does. And a good coach wins either way normally. Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's gonna be 9-8 every year, whether his best players are playing or not, because he figures out a way to win. And I'm just telling you, right now, this team does not play hard.
To the point he's playing the Colts.
And well, no, that was when that's when he was trying to rein everybody under control again, which he obviously did. But I think this game against Nebraska is a monumental game. Because if they don't,
I agree with you, Mike.
If they don't play hard, they will get blown out. And if they get blown out, they will lose to Ohio State at home.
Yep.
Because it's going to tell us the character of this team. If they play hard, win or lose, we'll be fine. But if they go out there and they're unprepared, and they've had 2 weeks, I guarantee you this. If I'm coaching that team, I'm not preparing for Moorhead State or North Alabama or Kennesaw State. I'm preparing for 2 weeks down the road when I got to go to Nebraska, because that's the game that matters. So they should be as prepared as they possibly can. They know it's tough to win at Nebraska. So what are they going to do? Are they going to go out? Are they going to fight their asses off, play as hard as they can? Or are they going to go out and do what they normally do and play hard for 5 to 10 minutes and lose by 20 points? Because it's not like Nebraska has a lot more talent. They don't. Indiana has a lot more talent than Nebraska. So the fact that we're even worried about Indiana winning this game should tell us all we need to know about where we stand right now.
Well, I still think contender, like what we said in the beginning of the show, is that the front court should dominate against Nebraska. The if is the backcourt and the defense against the three. That's what.
Yeah, but our guards are better than Nebraska's too. So where are we?
Well,
worried?
I'm sorry, I don't necessarily agree with that comment. I don't think that our guards are that much superior over Nebraska's.
I think our guards are better than Nebraska's. You got Xavier playing, and Xavier is going to be the savior.
Xavier's rust. We know that. If he plays,
well,
I think if we're lucky, he plays 10, 15 minutes of that game. If we're lucky.
Robert said he's not worried.
Well, Robert's never worried.
Robert's overly optimistic all the time.
But I mean, we don't know.
Yeah,
honestly,
and
look
this
at what
is
we
the
got.
issue.
We don't get consistent performance from Galloway. If we got the performance like we had for a couple of games, I would agree with you. But we don't get a consistent effort from Galloway. We get a consistent
he's still better than those guys. So what is the issue then? You got to be prepared. I agree with Brian. Problem is Nebraska. Brian Wetters says problem is Nebraska likely won't allow the half court game. They're going to play fast. But I will say this also. It is much easier to slow a game down, Brian, than it is to speed a game up. So when you look at that, Indiana should still be able, to impose their will, which Indiana doesn't do. But that's what needs to be done.
Wasn't Kennesaw State, from a Division I standpoint, plays the fastest pace of any team in Division I?
Yeah, without near the players Nebraska has, and they scored 87 points and hit 17 threes. That worries me because also Nebraska has guys that are taller than 6'5" to guard our bigs with, and it's not going to be one-sided on the boards.
No, we got outscored on the three-point line as usual, but we also outscored by double in the paint.
Yeah, it's because they don't have anybody. They play with 4 guards, right? I don't think they're trying
to call it guard, wing, whatever you want to call it these days.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think that they're real worried about moving the ball inside. All right, we got Michael Houghton. Michael, we must defend the 3 tomorrow. Sadly, we don't know which team will show up. I think we do. It's the same team that always shows up. Hopefully, we are rested and can handle them. Students are still out on break, so that may help us. Oh, hell, those students, if you're stuck in Lincoln, Nebraska, Michael, you can't afford to go all the way back home from the middle of nowhere, so they're probably all still there.
Come on, Steve, you've been quiet.
I have nothing.
It's because Steve didn't play for Big Ten Plus.
You didn't pay the $10 for the Big Ten Plus?
Hell no.
Hell no. I didn't either. I just learned about the game from reading. Go ahead. Now, I actually watched the condensed highlights so I could watch the game without commercials.
Well, that's a plus. It's like being a peacock. Yeah.
I guess. But, all right, guys. So who wins tomorrow night? Brian?
If X plays, quote unquote.
You just said he'd only play 5 or 10 minutes if he plays.
If he plays, Indiana by 7.
And if he doesn't?
Big L.
Okay. I say this. If X plays tomorrow night, we lose. If X doesn't play, we lose. I don't think we're going to win the game. I'm not that worried about winning the game. I think they should win the game. I'm just worried about the effort that goes with it. Nah, Indiana wins this game. I don't think Nebraska's that good. I don't. I think they're probably somewhere between the 5th and 8th best team in the Big Ten, which doesn't mean much with my opinion of the Big Ten basketball right now. Because football, of course, you got a Big Ten team's going to be the national champion this year.
No matter what.
And it's going to be Washington because Washington will beat Michigan. But Michael Penix.
Did you pick Michigan over Alabama?
Yeah. Oh, look at my scores. I picked Michigan to beat Alabama 23-20, and I picked Washington to beat Texas 31-27. I don't do this shit just for fun, Brian. All right, Steve. I say IU wins. He says IU wins. What say you?
I say IU wins by 5.
Okay. I think IU wins 137 to 130. Trey Galloway is going to score 78 points and hit 15 threes. But
I want what you're
IU Red Chair Group. Michael Alden says IU by 7.
I tell you, just in an off note, this has nothing to do. We're done talking about it. Like, we done talking about the game.
Yeah.
UCLA and USC are in for a rude awakening. I'm not in LA. I'm seeing those teams play.
Well, they're terrible
They're
this year.
terrible. Both schools are terrible. UCLA is
they came here to play football, Steve. They didn't come here to play basketball.
Yeah, well, UCLA can't even play football.
No, they can't. Not anymore. They got Chip Kelly. That'll happen.
But they're in for a rude awakening in the Big Ten basketball.
Well, it is awesome to watch a Hoosier play for a national football championship, though.
That's a great thing.
Hey, I got a question for y'all before we wrap it up. Brian, if you could have your choice of next year, Indiana could win the NCAA football championship or the NCAA basketball championship, which one would you choose?
Football.
Steve?
Basketball.
Nah, I go football too. Basketball's for sissies like Steve.
Hey, look.
I'm just kidding.
From where we're at.
Hey, put it like this: I've seen an IU basklepall championship.
I've got a little bit.
I've never even dreamed about Indiana football winning a national championship.
When I'm told that Indiana has the worst record of any D1 bowl,
that's what would make it special, Steve.
We're living in the past, Steve. That was last year.
Of all college football teams,
no, that's all time, Brian.
I know.
Of all bowl eligible college football teams, Indiana has the most losses and it's the worst record.
Hey, and guess what? To go with that, the last time Indiana was good, the last time Indiana beat Michigan, who was the quarterback?
Penix.
Michael Penix in 2020 when IU beat him and ended up ranked 9th in the country. So it was a great thing that they just let Penix leave. And also, I think it's funny because I remember doing an IU football show with Cole that year, and all these fans bitching about Penix and how he sucked and how they needed to play. I think it was Peyton Ramsey or some crap at the time. And everybody giving me crap because I kept saying I liked Penix. Well, Penix should have won the Heisman this year, and there's a real good shot he's going to be a national champion next year or next week.
By the way, do you know who the backup quarterback is for Michigan?
Who?
Tuttle.
Peyton Ramsey?
Tuttle.
Oh, Perry Tuttle? Was that his name, first name?
I don't know.
Well, hell, I'll tell you what. Now I know why J.J. McCarthy starts.
Hey, Mike, the backup quarterback for Texas, a Manning kid, is that the one related to Peyton and
Arch Manning? Yeah.
Arch, how is he related to him? Cousin or nephew or?
I think he's nephew, but I'm not sure because I don't really care because I don't like Manning.
So that would make you
except for Eli.
Cooper's son, right?
He might be. I don't know. Brian, whose son is he?
I have no clue.
Sounds like we're going to be a Maury Povich show. Brian Wetter says, key for our football program is recruitment of linemen, both sides. We've got a long ways to go. They don't have a long ways to go, Brian. Next year, IU wins at least 7 games.
Have you seen the schedule?
That's why I said they could win 7 games easy.
They got to play Washington, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah. And who else?
USC, I think it is. Or is it UCLA?
Yeah, they play UCLA. They come out here September 14th.
I ain't worried about that.
So you think they're going to go 7-5?
Mike,
I believe this. When you look at the schedule, I believe Indiana will open up with a win over the vaunted Florida International team. They'll beat Western Illinois. Then they play UCLA. They'll beat UCLA. They'll beat Charlotte. They'll beat Maryland. They'll beat Northwestern. They'll be 7-0 after they beat Nebraska.
Wait a minute. You say they're going to beat Maryland?
Oh, yeah. Why not?
Did you see how Maryland played the other day on the bowl game?
No, because nobody watches bowl games because they're exhibition bullshit. Why would you pay attention to that, Brian? And then they will finish the season by losing to Washington, Michigan, Ohio State. They beat Purdue. Yeah, they'll easily win 7 games. That schedule's not that tough, Brian. I mean, the teams you played that are good are really good.
Right.
But, I mean, Florida International's a win. Western Illinois is a win. UCLA is a toss-up. Charlotte should be a win. That's 3. Maryland, toss-up. Northwestern, toss
Mike,
up.
you gonna request
Nebraska, toss up.
press passes for the UCLA game?
No, because they don't even have tickets out for it yet. But when we get closer to when we get to July, remind me because that's when they'll do it.
I'll go. I'll get interviews too.
And Brian says we'll win 4. We'll win more than 4. We have a coach that can coach, which is the most important thing in football.
Yeah, we do.
And yes, Robert, Northwestern used to be the worst. I don't know if they were all time the worst, but I do know I remember in the early 80s where at one point they lost like 39 games in a row or something.
But weren't they actually pretty good in the 60s?
60s, they were good until Ara Parsegian left Northwestern to go to Notre Dame.
Right.
So they were good till then. I think they were still decent. And then about mid-70s, they completely fell off the face of the earth and couldn't beat anybody.
Speaking of which, did Notre Dame even play in a bowl game this year?
Yeah, they beat Oregon State 40-8. Nobody cared, though. See,
yeah, what bowl game do they play in?
The Who Cares
The
Bowl.
Sun Bowl? That's what they all. Brian, you're the one that just claimed to have watched Maryland.
Oh, you just shot me down. Maryland made the bowl game.
They played Auburn, who was 6-6 and lost to New Mexico State by 3 touchdowns.
Who? Did you see Barkley's comment? He said, if Alabama was playing Afghanistan in a football game, I'd be rooting for Afghanistan.
Well, I mean, the good thing, though, is also, if you look, Charles Barkley, went to Epstein Island. So what the hell? Who cares what that fat bastard says?
God, now we're really going down.
We're not going down anything. The shit that was released.
I heard that list is coming out.
Well, a lot of people have already seen the list, but yeah, athlete-wise, the only guy I remember being on it that was an athlete was Charles Barkley.
He's not married.
OJ didn't even go.
He's not married.
Okay, so if you're not married, you can sleep with a 10-year-old girl.
No.
Okay.
Reserved for Pete Rose.
Yes, and Pete wouldn't go below 12. Yeah. So what the hell? All right, guys. Indiana plays tomorrow night at 9. We'll be back.
Hey, you know what Thursday? I did notice? Michigan had a lot of female trainers. Target-rich environment for Peyton Manning.
Well, I was thinking maybe Deshaun Watson could go there and be the coach if Jim Harbaugh leaves.
All right, we better
all right.
Here before we
Thursday, you guys want to go early again?
Yeah.
Fine with me.
Okay. We'll go Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Sounds good to me.
That way Steve doesn't have to get up so early.
No,
all right, guys, remember.
I'm fine.
Remember, we will be here Thursday at 1 o'clock to look back at the Indiana-Nebraska game.
And preview the Ohio State game.
We will preview the Ohio State game on Saturday night to make sure if you're going to. Oh, yeah. I think Robert asked who was the favorite in the IU-Nebraska game. That line is not out yet. My guess is it's probably going to be Nebraska somewhere around 5 or 6. But also according to whether Xavier Ware is announced playing yet or not. So, all right, guys, check out BetMGM to bet the game. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can follow Brian Mohr at BK Mohr.
Yep, MOHR. Spell it right.
Somebody's going to put in BK Mohr, and then they're going to put MOHR, and you're not going to be there. And they're going to
say BKMOHR.
All right. And you can follow Steve Risley at SRisley34 on Instagram and on Twitter. But for now, guys, for Brian Mohr, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.